How many of you have been in need of a job before because it depended on how you were going to pay for your food on the table, for the bills you need to pay, and for personal items? Imagine yourself in a position where you get an interview and you nailed it. You begin to think that your worries are over. They give you the offer of a full-time employment who will get paid $7.25. That means that for a week of 40 hours at a work job, you're getting paid $290. That's not to include how much they take out for taxes. I truly believe this is not enough for an individual's living expenses. According to CPP, in San Antonio, an individual needs to make $12.86 an hour. A parent with one child needs to make $20.21 an hour. Two parents with two children need to make $29.67. A couple with no kids needs to make $19.75 an hour. In my extensive research, I have found that it is getting harder to find a job that pays for the living costs in Texas. According to NCSL, 21 states began 2020 with a higher minimum wage. Unfortunately, Texas was not one of them. $7.25 is not nearly enough to meet the living expenses, such as the requirements for food, for housing, transportation, and other basic needs. Having a higher minimum wage will have its pros and cons just like anything else. This is why I'm here to propose to you that Texas needs to raise their minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. It has been proven that making $7.25 is not enough to live in the state of Texas. Let's review the living costs to live in Texas. According to the Massachusetts Institute, the living wage calculator made a living wage in Texas. A single adult will have to earn from $11 to $12 an hour. This will be enough. This will be an estimate of making $441.20 a week, which is double what you will be making if you earn $7.25 an hour. From interviewing several people in my family, I came to a conclusion that a home in Texas is roughly an estimate of $90,000 to $200,000. This means that monthly payments are anywhere from $800 to $1,000. Above that, they need to pay the average for food and that's anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. Next is the transportation. This means if you have a car payment, you'll be paying anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. Lastly, for other basic necessities, it is anywhere from $100 to $300 a month. This means that if you have a payment, this means that your monthly payment will be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 a month. Making $7.25 will not cut this. We will now talk about how this makes us feel. When I first got my first job, I was getting paid $7.25. It felt as if I was being used. I really never felt appreciated, especially after working flexible hours with them and doing my job outstanding. And it was really hard to get a raise. So to top off getting paid minimum wage, $7.25, it was really hard to get a raise. I personally wish that the minimum wage was higher because this makes me feel hopeless. I want to be able to buy a home one day, and how will I get there if house prices are out of the roof? The minimum wage is making it harder for me to reach my goal. Now that you know why $7.25 is not enough to live in the state of Texas, let's talk about the pros and cons on why it's better to have a higher minimum wage. There are good reasons to having a higher minimum wage, good as well as bad. Having a higher minimum wage is good for many reasons. And some of these reasons include having a higher minimum wage will have more people be able to afford to live in the state of Texas, which means more business for construction workers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Raising the minimum wage could also mean that many would be out of poverty. This would mean that they could afford to live in the state of Texas and pay their expenses rather than getting a loan and having to pay it off for the rest of their life. Let's get started on why a minimum wage is a bad thing, could be a bad thing. Having a higher minimum wage would mean that small businesses could not afford to pay their employees. This could lead to less job opportunities. As well as less job opportunities, having a higher minimum wage would increase the price of consumer goods. It would lead to having businesses having robot operated and automated processes rather than having their service employees. Having a higher minimum wage will have its pros and cons just like anything else. Usually does, but in the state of Texas, we need it to be higher. This is why I propose raising the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour would give the opportunity for people to save enough to buy cash rather than having to take out loans. Buying cash is always a greater alternative, but when you make enough, it's harder. When you don't make enough money to pay bills, but you still need to find a way for transportation, many people choose to take out a loan so they can get a car. This will lead more people into poverty, and eventually they'll have to pay it for the rest of their time. According to CNBC, the average American has about $38,000 in personal debt. There have been other states with higher minimum wages who are doing great. For example, I know Colorado, they have a higher minimum wage and they're doing great. According to the US News, Colorado is the top 10 in the strongest economies. Another state with great minimum wages is Washington. They are also ranked in the top 10 with the best economy next to Colorado. Having the minimum wage at $7.25 is a problem in Texas because it's not enough to live there. Just like anything, raising the minimum wage will have its pros and cons. But there have been other states that have higher minimum wages and are doing just fine. I ask that you consider my proposition for raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour by signing any petitions that will help. It won't take longer than 5 minutes and we'll be closer to reaching our goal.